Chartier with Paradigm Transportation Solutions Limited. And this evening, we're going to give you a presentation on, as Lyndon mentioned, the work that's gone into looking at the traffic study for Wallace Avenue. I'm here this evening with my colleague Heather Hector, who's going to be delivering the technical material in the presentation. And then we'll together be answering any questions that you may have on the work that's been completed to date. So I'm going to quickly turn this over to Heather now so she can run you through the presentation this evening.
Thanks, Gene. I think we've done a good round of introductions, so I'm going to move forward with our agenda. So today we're going to go through the background and study overview. We'll detail the existing conditions in the area, provide a little bit of an overview about traffic calming in general, and then the actual development of the traffic calming plan, followed by the recommendations and next steps. So as Lyndon mentioned, in September 2020, the neighborhood delegation appeared before council expressing the concerns about traffic conditions on Wallace Avenue South, and the delegation requested the installation of an all-way stop control at Wallace Avenue South and Crotch Street to help mitigate speeding and increase pedestrian safety. So with that, the municipality retained us to complete the neighborhood traffic study with the study area extending from Anger Street in the north to line 84 in the south. So our study examines the existing traffic conditions and proposes actions to address and identify safety concerns. So just to review, this is a map of the study area. You can see Anger Street in the north, just south of the trail, and then line 84 towards the south where Wallace Avenue ends. We also focused on 3 intersections within the area, those being Crotch Street, Armstrong Street, and Hutton Street. So some highlights and data we collected in the area. Just so everybody knows, Wallace Avenue is classified as an arterial road, meaning it provides its purpose is for traffic flow and to provide connections to other streets. The posted speed limit is 50 kilometers an hour. Sidewalks are present on both sides of the road, except south of Crotch Street, not in this area. And then the municipality collected speed data prior to the pandemic in 2019. So these are the values that they collected and the 85th percentile speed. So from Anger to Hutton, 47 kilometers an hour. Within the middle section, it ranged from 57 to 55 kilometers an hour. And then in the southern section, the undeveloped area, 69 kilometers an hour. And then the traffic volume decreased as you went south, ranging from 3,000 to just over 2,000 vehicles per day. So that's collected within a 24-hour period. So the first thing that we checked was the all-way stop control warrant because it was a specific request of the delegation. But I just want to note that the purpose of a stop sign is to assign right-of-way between vehicles approaching an intersection. All-way stop should not be used to protect pedestrians, particularly school children, as a speed control device or as a means of deterring movement through traffic in a residential area. So we can see here that what the delegation has requested is not necessarily the best option for this location, but we wanted to check just to make sure that it wasn't warranted at this location. So based on the existing volumes that were collected earlier this year, all-way stop control is not warranted at Wallace Avenue South and Crotch Street. So moving forward, we look to traffic calming to see if there's other measures that we could use to help mitigate some of these concerns. So the Canadian Guide to Traffic Calming, published by the Transportation Association of Canada, describes traffic calming as the process and measures applied by the road authorities to address concerns about the behavior of motor vehicle drivers traveling on streets within their jurisdictions. So the application of traffic calming is really intended to restore streets to their planned function. And in this case, Wallace Avenue is an arterial road, so the planned function would be to move traffic, not necessarily as a neighborhood providing local access. So some of the advantages of traffic calming can be reducing speeds and traffic volumes, discouraging shortcutting, improving the neighborhood livability, um, in the sense that you could add measures that help walking and cycling and active transportation, and reducing conflicts between roadway users. Of course, there can always be disadvantages, and one of the main disadvantages is the increased emergency vehicle response time and transit times. This is likely due to vertical deflection measures such as speed humps. It takes longer for them to go over them, or if we're trying to reduce speeds, those vehicles also need to reduce their speeds. It can reduce the accessibility to the neighborhood for vehicles. It can divert traffic or speeding concerns onto other roadways. It also results in increased maintenance costs, increased vehicle emissions, and sometimes traffic calming measures can be visually unattractive or increase noise in the area. So here you can see 6 different categories of traffic calming measures. And this slide ranges from the least intrusive measures to the most intrusive measures down at the bottom right corner. So starting with education enforcement, these are things like police presence, radar feedback boards. I know there is one placed on Wallace Avenue already, just giving drivers feedback for their speed. Then pavement markings, so things like writing here, slow down. You might have seen like dragon's teeth or triangles, things that alert the driver to the conditions of the area and that something is changing. Then you have access restrictions, so you can restrict access for vehicles in certain directions or entirely, but still provide access for active transportation users such as cyclists. Then you have roadway narrowing. So in this picture, there's a bump out. So this helps narrow the road and give the feeling of a narrower space, so drivers tend to slow down. Then you have horizontal deflection, so things that cause drivers to move horizontally back and forth in the roadway, which also results in them typically slowing down. And lastly, vertical deflection. So here you can see a speed cushion, which drivers have to go over, and you tend to slow down to avoid the uncomfortable feeling of going up and down. So that was the review of different measures that we could use. But first, we needed to start with the road classification review. As I mentioned, Wallace Avenue is an arterial road, and typically traditional traffic calming measures are not used on arterial roads. So we took a look at guidance provided by the Transportation Association of Canada and the municipality's official plan on different types of road classifications and check to see if Wallace Avenue should be reclassified. So what we found is that the designation is not appropriate given the existing characteristics and the predominantly residential setting. So we recommend that the road be reclassified from Main Street to line 84 as a collector road. So collector road provides both um, access to properties or access to local roads, as well as to serve traffic, but its main goal is not to serve traffic. It's to be a mix of both. So to do this, we need to introduce the collector road designation in the municipality's official plan. And I believe this was passed, or this went to council about a week ago. So that piece has already been moved forward. So after we've recommended their reclassification, we looked at pedestrian crossings and locations where we could um, provide a protected crossing on Wallace Avenue South. I know there's already a crossing provided at Hutton Street, a school crossing, so that's only a crossing available when the school crossing guard is present. So looking at something that would be there 24 hours a day without the need for a crossing guard. So based on the counts that we collected in March, the pedestrian and vehicle volumes warrant a pedestrian crossover, level 2 type C. So you can see a picture of this on your left. So this includes signs leading up to the crossing, signs at the crossing, the ladder pavement markings, and then rectangular rapid flashing beacons. So if you're a pedestrian, you would come up to this, you would press the button to activate the flashing beacons, and vehicles would have to stop for you while you're crossing. And then in terms of location, we recommend installing this at Wallace Avenue South and Crott Street on the north side. The north side because it would connect with the existing sidewalks, and then this provides a direct connection all the way out to Tremaine Street where there's the Catholic school, and then it's a further enough distance away from Hutton Street, the existing school crossing there. We don't want to have the crossings too close together because pedestrians might tend to use one over the other, and it might not necessarily be the best location. Sorry for that. So then we move forward with creating a traffic calming plan. So using some of the measures I detailed before, as well as the pedestrian crossing. So here you can see the plan for the road, and the first, and I'll detail the numbers. It should be 1 through 4. Unfortunately, the numbers seem to have disappeared, but so the first thing would be marking the center line pavement line. We noticed that Wallace Avenue South is extremely wide, so we wanted to delineate the lanes on each side. The second part is to install an edge line pavement marking, so these white lines on the outside. So this helps again delineate the road, and it provides an opportunity for cyclists on street. The third measure is the crossing I just mentioned. So located on the north side of the Crott Street intersection, and it would look something like the picture you see here. You may not necessarily have the in-road sign, and there's islands on Wallace Avenue. Sorry, excuse me. And then the fourth piece would be installing pavement markings to create this gore area. When you come up on going northbound on Wallace, when you see Crott Street, the road is quite wide and there's not really a delineation of the lanes. So this will help narrow the lanes at that section and ensure that drivers are staying within their lane in that area. And the pavement markings will extend throughout the entire study area. So this, I believe the existing cross section is about 8 to 9 meters across, which makes for quite wide lanes, about 4 to 4.5 meters. So the purpose of the lane markings will narrow the lanes down to about 3.25, and the additional space will be used for cycling or just to create a smaller lane width. So just to tie up in presentation, we had a number of recommendations that came out just on observing the existing signs and markings in the area. We noted that the school crossing pavement markings on the south leg of the Hutton Street intersection need to be refreshed with the correct type of marking. We noticed that some of these object marker signs that you see on the left side here need to be replaced on some of the islands. So those are two things that the municipality should do to bring the roadway up to standard. Third was to update the official plan to include the collector road definition. As I mentioned, the municipality is already working on this one. And then to reclassify Wallace Avenue South from Main Street to Line 84 as a collector road. The Second set of recommendations have to do with the traffic calming. So the first, to install the PXO on the north leg at Crott Street, to implement the proposed traffic calming plan I just detailed, and then of course to monitor and evaluate the effectiveness of the traffic calming plan by doing both pre and post implementation data collection. So this allows the municipality to see how these measures are impacting speeds and safety in the area, and provide them the opportunity to refine the plan to ensure that it is doing what it is, helping increase safety and reducing speeds. So as far as next steps, the municipality will be accepting feedback until the end of July. So you can provide feedback in a number of ways. You can go to yoursaynorthperth.ca/TMP study, and there's an option to provide comments through the comment box. You can also send an email to tmpstudy@northperth.ca. So after we get the feedback, we'll review all of the neighborhood input, and if needed, refine the traffic calming plan. Later, the plan and report will be presented to council for approval, and then implementation would take place afterwards. And if you have any additional comments or questions, you can also contact Lyndon through the information listed below. So that concludes the presentation. If you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat or raise your hand.
Thanks, Heather. That was a thorough look at what we've reviewed, and again the recommendations. So I first saw these in the last 2 to 3 weeks and have been discussing them with Jean and Hector. We were quite pleased with the option that came forward as a PXO. We've been working, as you know, as a community to upgrade PXOs throughout Listowel, and are looking at several more to be installed in the next year to 2 years. So it's something that the public are familiar with, and it will be consistent with the existing PXOs that we have in the rest of the municipality. So both the public who are walking and cycling, as well as the traffic, will know what to expect when they get there. This one does have the illuminations of the flashing strobes, so it gives just that much more indication that there is a crossing in place, and just to be cautious and to stop. So again, excited to see the kind of results that we had from it, and I think it adequately addresses the concerns, and will help come the fall when we implement, hopefully. I don't see names coming up in our chat function. There's a few of us attending here, and I noticed there's several attending on YouTube as well that wouldn't be able to access that. So please, if you do have questions or need more information on the slides, by all means, ask now. I would also say, just as Heather said, just to repeat it, it's available on our website through the YouTube feeds to review this. I'm available at the numbers and contact information as well if you've got questions. We might accelerate the timeline based on an ordering period for some of the lighting and the components to ensure that we're installing by September and ready to go. So if that changes, we'll let everyone know on the website. It does depend a little bit on your feedback and how quickly it comes in, and what exactly is stated. But we're looking forward to that both tonight and through the YouTube channel and other emails and Your Say North Perth. I'm just reading some of the chats right now. And I'll just leave the floor open to Jean and Heather to respond to some comments. Or if Greg, you want to speak to that question, you can speak to it right now, or we'll just go right to an answer.
So for those of you who are watching on YouTube, the question was, with the flashing crossing lights, is that some people don't push the button and cross with the lights even in the dark. So this would really be an education component to make sure that sharing information with residents to ensure that they know how to use the crossing and how they should. I've seen on a number of PXOs where there's a little sign, it gives you instructions right there. And additionally, street lighting in the area would help drivers be able to see people at night crossing.
I would add to that, that because the schools and the transportation companies are involved, and I've been coordinating things with them as well, I think I will talk to the schools and the boards that I've been communicating with about that education program, just so that the children using the crossing know and can bring that information home, maybe even a hard copy as an introduction to the lights. I share this concern. This happened downtown when we changed from what were an older type of crossing that didn't have lights to one that does. And I still see people not using them. This is a great opportunity to talk about it and educate the kids that are going to be using it, and to get the information to the schools as well. So just echoing what Heather said, we'll probably go straight to the schools to help with that. Great. Jane from St. Mary's, who helps with coordinating things, said they'd love to help with that. So that's a step in the right direction. That avoids an email tomorrow that I may forget. And I'll talk with Jane as we get closer in terms of the education that we put forward. We did have PXO information cards. I'll probably vet those with Paradigm to make sure that they're accurate for what we're doing right here. And we can get those to the schools and get those posted on our website as well. Yeah, I think we'll let this run for a few more moments, but I'd like to thank Heather and Jean just for the information that was provided. This is an opportunity actually for anybody that's listening in the video to wait on the transportation master plan that's going to be talking about calming in general through different corridors that the public have brought forward, but also that we see as hot zones in terms of traffic speeding and conflicts. So the general transportation master plan is really going to be looking at these broader issues across the whole community, but it was an excellent opportunity to look at one specific corridor and to see how it can be dealt with. And it's going to be a bit of a model for us as we move forward and address concerns in the future in other areas, in Listowel, in Atwood, in Moncton, but in our more urban areas. So look for the master plan towards the end of the year coming through and addressing much broader transportation issues that match up with this one. I would also say, as Heather did, that we're changing it to a collector designation, and it allows us to do these calming measures. You'll see the painting take place. It's in conjunction with a county contract later on in the summer in advance of this as well. So we'll get this information to them, and we'll get some of the components in place probably even before the signage in terms of the paint. And I think that's probably the last of the information that I have. Again, the meeting could have lasted longer. We're only at the half-hour mark. It gives us lots of time to spend with our families tonight after this. But unless Heather and Jean have any concluding remarks, or there's something coming in from everyone who's watching, I think I'll say that we are adjourned. And again, thank you very much for your input, for the delegation that originally came forward to council and expressed their concerns. And I'm looking forward to further conversation as we go through the next few weeks, and then bringing this forward to council for their recommendations to move forward with what I'm going to say is the construction project part of it. So thanks again, Heather, Jean. Thanks to everybody who is here, and have a good evening.